Hello specialist math students, I'm just making a short video here to show you how to use your TI-84 calculator to do matrix operations. I've got this emulator that I've downloaded that'll be on your screen, and basically all the functions are the same as your calculator, and you can follow along on what I'm doing. So first thing we want to do is get into the matrix menu. So we press second function, and the matrix button, you can see it's just above the x to the power of -1, and it's written in blue, matrix. So we click that guy, and here we've got a bunch of names of matrices. So if we want to call up a matrix we've already made, we can use that and just click the button for the matrix we've created. Or if we scroll across using the arrow buttons, we can get into the math button area, that menu that gives us a bunch of operations we can do with the matrix. And the next menu across is edit, which enables us to edit a matrix, and that's what we want to do. So I'm going to click number 1, or we could just click enter. I'll click enter, and gives us matrix 1. So what we do first is define the order of the matrix. So at the moment it's a 1 by 1 matrix, which isn't very interesting. So let's go for a 3 by 3 matrix, which will be much better. So we can see we've got all the values populated in the grid now, and we just need to fill them in. So we'll just put a bunch of values in here. Sorry, I hit enter. So once we just type the value in, so I'll hit 7, go -1. I'm just making these up. It can be whatever you need it to be, obviously, but let's put a 0 in there, and and 6. So we've got our values for the first matrix. What we'll do, we'll make another one as well. Let's go to matrix again, and we're going to edit matrix 2. We can just press number 2, and we'll make another 3 by 3 matrix. Actually, make it a 3 by 4, something different. And we're just going to go ahead and populate it with a bunch of values. Doesn't really matter what we use. There we go. And let's make one more. Go to matrix again. Click on number 3. Oh, hang on. What I did there was actually called up matrix 3. We need to go to edit and click on 3 to get matrix 3, and we'll make it a 3 by 1. And put in some values like that. If we make a mistake, we can just go to the value we want and say that should have been a -2. We can just change the value as needed. So we can edit the matrix at any time. Right, so we've got a bunch of matrices. If we go second function and quit, we're back out into our regular calculator screen now. So we might want to do some operations with our matrices. Actually, we're going to need, sorry, one more. Let's do another 3 by 3 just so I can show you a few more things. 3 by 3, and there we go. All right, bunch of values in our next matrix. Now, if we want, we can use some of those math features to do some different things with the matrices. For example, if we go second function matrix, scroll across to math, the first value here with the 1, if we click on that, it will give us the determinant of a matrix. So remember, this is something we can do if we've got a square matrix. So if we use one of our 3 by 3 matrices, and to call it up, we just go to the names and we'll click on matrix 1. So we get the determinant of A, just hit enter, and it gives us the determinant without having to do anything else. So that's useful. The other thing we might want to do is if we call up matrix, so we've got matrix 3, which is matrix C, was a 3 by 1 matrix. We might want to transpose this matrix. So if we scroll down here, option 2 is to transpose. So remember, that's where we sort of flip it sideways. And instead of being 5, 6 minus 2 that we originally had, so if I just show you what it originally, actually what I'll do, I'll call up matrix 1. If we just hit enter, we can see what matrix 1 looks like. If we transpose this guy, so just hit second function enter, we get matrix 1 again, but we'll get the transpose feature, number 2, and hit enter. And you can see what's happened there is we've done the rotate 90 degrees and flip when we've transposed it. So you can see how the rows have become columns and the columns have basically become the rows. So that's our definition of transposing the matrix. So it's a quick, efficient way to transpose is to use your graphics calculator. What else did we want to look at there under the math heading? That's probably enough for now. If you use option 3, it'll give you the dimensions in the matrix, so you can just say what's the dimensions of A, and it'll say 3 by 3. So it doesn't tell us that much. The other features we don't really need for now. So what we're going to do is quit, go back to our main screen. And I want to show you how we can use the calculator to do some basic operations. So one of the first things we learned to do was to add two matrices. So if we want to call up matrix A again, click on 1, and if we want to add it to matrix 4, click on the 4, which is D, and if we hit enter, you can see that they're added together. Similarly, you could hit second function enter, it just brings back the commands that we just put in, but if we change the add to subtract, we can hit enter and you can see the two matrices have been subtracted. So it's pretty straightforward. We also might want to do some scalar multiplication. So if we want to multiply, have A minus, say, 2 times D, we go second function insert, so it'll push D sideways, and so we want to multiply it by 3, just put 3 star, and hit enter, and we can see we're now doing A minus 3 times D. Another thing we might want to do, if we actually put that, if we scroll up to this, we can get this one back, save me typing it again. The other thing we might want to do is I'll put insert again, and we might want to do 5 times, and then I'll bracket, so it'll multiply this, so the one we got over here, by 5. And if we do that, you can see basically we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication by a scalar, just using the matrix and using the normal calculator buttons for multiplication and the other operations. Let's try something else. Let's look at what happens when we go second function matrix and we want to go matrix A plus matrix B. Before we hit enter, what do you think is going to happen? Have a guess. Right? Let's see if it is what you thought would happen. We got an error, dimension mismatch. Why is that? Yes, you were probably screaming at the screen before I even did it, saying, "Sir, no, you can't do it. You can't multiply a 3 by 3 matrix by a 3 by 4 matrix. It just can't be done." And you'd be completely right in saying that, because if we go back to our list of matrices, we can see that A was a 3 by 3 and B was a 3 by 4, and we can't add them together. Could we multiply them? 3 by 3 by 3 by 4? Yes, because the rows on A will match, the columns on A will match the number of rows on B. So let's try it. We'll just demonstrate that, and we'll see what matrix we get. So if we get A, and we're going to multiply it by B, there we go. And as expected, we get a 3 by 4 matrix. So that's pretty useful. The other thing we need to do is multiply, find the inverse of different matrices. So we can do that simply by, if we call up our matrix, let's do matrix D this time. So there's matrix D, and if we want to find the inverse, all we need to do is get D back, and we'll use our power sign, and if we want to take the inverse, it's the power of -1. If we hit enter, what that will do, we've got lots of decimals there, because remember when we're finding the inverse, it's 1 on the determinant, multiplied by the matrix with the signs flipped around for the different parts. And if we scroll sideways, we'll be able to see the rest of our matrix. We've got some big numbers there. Lots of decimals. But anyway, that's why it's happening. That is how you find the inverse of a matrix. The other thing we might want to do along those lines, if we second function, get matrix D back, but instead of finding the inverse, what we may want to do sometimes is to raise our matrix to a power. So for example, we may want to cube our matrix, which is just like doing D times D times D, and that's what happens. And I'll just show you that that's exactly the same as doing the operation D times D times D. If you don't believe me, go D times D times D, and you can see we get exactly the same thing. So when we get to some of the other topics in the next unit, you'll see it's super handy to be able to square matrices multiple times, particularly when we do Markov chains and dominance matrices, things like that. So graphics calculator is the way to go, particularly when you're dealing with higher order matrices. It just gets way too slow doing it by hand. I think that is all we need to know for now. So just recapping, you know how to do find the determinant for a matrix, you can find the inverse, you can multiply by a scalar, you can add and subtract, and you can multiply matrices, and you can raise matrices to a given power. So have some fun with that, play around with it. I'll no doubt give you some questions to practice on using your calculator. Hope this has been helpful. Thank you.